Thank you very much to the Tech Tactics and Campus Technology and THE Journal teams for inviting me today. This is going to be a very, very fast session. So you can put your pens down. It'll be very difficult to take notes today, but I understand the slides will be available for you after this session. So let's get started. My name is Danny Bielik. I am the president of the Digital Education Council, originally from Australia, in case my accent didn't give it away, based in Singapore now, which is our global headquarters. We are a community of practice of rapidly approaching 150 universities and colleges from around the world. About a quarter of our membership is from the United States. So we're very grateful to all our American friends for their support. In terms of who we are and what we do, we wanted to be a little bit different to other organizations that are out there. We're truly global in nature, but we chose to do a small number of things and do them exceptionally well rather than sort of become everything to everybody. So they're the 5 things that we do. We're probably best known for our reports and executive briefings. We do these every month for our members. They're a deep dive into some of the very big issues of the day. We probably spend about 70% of our time working on AI, but we also work on things like the future of work, the future of higher education, digital and online learning, ESG and sustainability, and entrepreneurialism and commercialization. We also publish a lot of data-driven reports, many of which are available from our website for free. A lot of these I'm going to be going through today, but if you wanted to go and have a look at some of our work, it's at digitaleducationcouncil.com. We also host working groups for our members. These are very different to what you might be used to in higher education. Our working groups are laser focused on outcomes. If you want to see an example of some of the output from our working groups, 27 of our university members developed the 10-dimension AI readiness framework. I'm going to show you a little bit of some of that work today, and you can actually download a full copy of that report from our website as well. Right, let's get started. What we wanted to do was just sort of try and tell a little bit of a story using some of the reports and executive briefings that we delivered to our members. And the story is really about the nature of what's actually going on in the world of work and how the higher education industry needs to respond to that. Now, we know from a recent report that we did called AI in the Workplace. Again, this one's available for free. You can download it from our website. What we did was we worked together with a spin-off from the Singapore government called GFTN, who supported us for this work. And we started to ask employers, what do you see AI is going to do to change the nature of work in the next little while, and what's already starting to happen? So we're already starting to see that 56% of employers are saying that most of their team use AI in their work daily, and that's today. And we asked them, okay, so what are you using it for? And is it actually driving any benefits? Because of course we hear all this noise that maybe it's a lot of hype, but actually what we're seeing is that, almost a third of employers we ask say that AI is game changing in their workplace today. And we know how very early it is in this cycle. But if you add up helpful, very helpful, and game changing, you get to 86% of employers today are already saying that this is driving some gains in their workplace. Now, everyone likes to politely talk about the reduction in headcount and whether we think that people are going to be sacked and replaced with AI. So we just asked the question point blank, and 72% of employers believe today that AI adoption will reduce headcount. Now, fun fact, we work with 4 universities, very large, prominent universities in the Philippines. And we're also in communication with the Office of the Secretary for Education, Sunny Angara over there. A large proportion of the GDP of that country is the business process outsourcing or BPO industry, call centers and those sorts of things, back office functions. And they're expecting that a huge percentage of their workforce in that industry is going to be replaced by AI. So that country is probably the most likely to be disrupted. But as you can see from this slide, we know that actually this is coming for many, many industries. So which are the jobs that are most likely going to be at risk? Well, you can start with marketing, communications, and public relations. You can imagine that a lot of marketing functionality is going to be replaced, whether it's content development or developing marketing strategies, particularly a lot of those junior and mid-tier roles. Also, data analytics and business intelligence. This concurs with a report that we did a little bit earlier this year that we had the support of the World Bank to do. And that report looked at skill sets that we're seeing in job advertisements today. And what we're seeing is the growth in the number of skill sets. So even senior managers are being required to use AI to do some of this data analytics and business intelligence functions in their jobs instead of relying on armies of data analysts. Finance, we can imagine, inputting receipts and stuff into databases is probably not going to be much longer for humans to do. What's really interesting on this slide is because we were talking, of course, with a lot of executives and leadership, they basically said, well, no, not us. But I suspect that there's some activity that will happen there. So if we take a step back and take a bit of a helicopter view, what I wanted to do here was demonstrate how we don't think a lot of the changes that are happening in the world of work and industry are really necessarily just about AI. And so you can see here on this slide that we talk about a range of things. So we talk about demographic changes. Now, I put this often as the number one change that we see happening throughout the world. In many developed countries, we see a lot of people moving into retirement. And we all know that, our grandparents had, were families, larger families. In my case, my mother was one of five, but we have one kid. And so you can see that the size of families is reducing, and that's going to play itself out in demographic changes in developed countries. In many developing countries, places like India, they have a large bubble of people between 15 and 25, and they're finding engagement in the economic world is very, very difficult for them right now because of the state of their education system. We know about the economic changes, social changes. We want to talk very much about the skills-based workforce. And you see there in that box, it says rapid technological advancement. We don't necessarily talk about AI. AI is one part of what we see happening in the world of work, but there are many other things that are coming down the pipeline: autonomous vehicles, robotics, and quantum computing hot on its heels. So we would certainly argue that there's an unusual confluence of different things that are happening, and it's up to the higher education industry to respond to that. But if we look at the traditional way that, let's talk about universities and colleges for a moment, how we typically think about the student journey. We think they start down here on the left-hand side at enrollment. They go through this linear progression, coming out at the other end with some kind of degree, diploma, or other qualification. And we know that for many, many years, employers have said, well, what you're teaching in university isn't directly relevant, and we wish there's other stuff that you would do to make it more relevant to the world of work. Well, as a direct result of AI and some of this other technological advances, the skills needs of industry are changing in a way that is really parabolic. But our industry, the higher education industry, our ability to respond to that really sort of looks like a much flatter line. So, of course, we see this growing this growing misalignment between the needs of industry and the way the education system starts to respond. What I wanted to do now is also have a look at behaviour, because this is not just about technological advancement and changes in industry. So much of what's happening at the moment is about organisational behaviour and human behaviour. So let's start with some results of a survey that we did last year, looking at student behaviour. Now, when this came out, this is probably the most cited report of its kind anywhere in the world, and we're really grateful to Campus Technology for the amount of coverage that this report has received. We know that a year ago, 86% of students were already claiming to use AI in their studies, and 54% were using it on a weekly basis. Now, I have a 15-year-old son, and I can tell you that at 15, he's first of all going to be your student in 3 years' time. But at 15 years old, his interaction with Google and search tools is limited to 0. So actually, he's a native AI user. And so we asked students, what are they actually using it for? And no surprise to me as a parent of a teenager, but this is something that I think everybody needs to pay attention to, that the number one use case for AI is to search for information, not checking grammar and not summarizing documents, which is primarily what I use it for. And creating first drafts is really only a quarter said that is one of their top use cases. We asked students, given even the high rates of usage that we have for AI in the classroom today, do they feel ready to use it in a future workforce that heavily utilizes AI? Well, we've seen that is absolutely true. But 58% said that they have sufficient knowledge and skills, and less than half said that they feel prepared for that future workforce. 80% of students are saying that AI at university is not fully meeting their expectations. So it is incumbent on us to do something. If we want our students to be using it safely, ethically, and in a way that prepares them for the world of work, we need to actually start to move at a much more rapid pace into that space. And how do we do that? Students say that really two things come out of these numbers. They're basically saying 72% of them are saying we wish that universities would provide us with training and use of AI tools. And they also wish that they would be provided with more training on the effective use of AI. Importantly, they don't just wish that they had training, they also wish you had training as well. So that's really important. So then we went and asked earlier this year faculty, and we wanted to say, well, what is it that you're thinking and doing about the use of AI? Now, 61% earlier this year had said that they've used AI. So you can already see that growing mismatch of 86% of students versus 61% of faculty. You can download this, a copy of the full report from our website as well. What are faculty using it for? Well, they're using it to predominantly create teaching materials. Now, we've all heard from many faculty around the world that the rate or the level of administration is becoming too burdensome on them. So there's some real opportunity here with the right amount of guidance, with some understanding about the appropriate uses and ethical uses of AI for some of that burden to be lifted. So creating teaching materials, number one, supporting administrative tasks, number two. Nobody that I know from the world of faculty has ever come to me and said, I wish I could do more admin. And then, of course, almost half of faculty is saying we're using it to teach students and to evaluate AI in the classroom. And we can see that emerging bubble in terms of student engagement. But I think a lot of this is starting to happen at the institutional or departmental level. The other numbers down there, detect cheating. This one is a really vexed issue for me. I've always said that I think that chasing one piece of technology with another piece of technology is going to be a bit challenging, although we do know that a lot of universities are still relying on some of the tools, particularly from Turnitin, to try and detect the use of AI as a way of trying to police its use. That behaviour seems to have shifted a lot in the last 12 months, where these sorts of tools are basically being injected and the practice is now shifting towards a practice of how can we start to look at doing authentic assessment rather than trying to punish people for using AI. But faculty sentiment is actually a little bit divided. So we asked them, how do you feel about the use of AI in education? And 57% were quite positive about it. The real standout figure from this slide is that almost one third are taking a bit of a wait and see approach to see how this all plays out. And we also asked, well, do you see this as a challenge or an opportunity? Actually, broadly, faculty are quite positive about the use of AI. They don't see their jobs as necessarily, being replaced at least in the short term. But this varies by region. And this one, we've sort of been trying to understand what's going on here. Certainly in the Asia Pacific, a lot of this is made up by developed Asian markets like places like Singapore and, of course, Australia and New Zealand as being very, very broadly positive. Europe, Middle East and Africa, a little bit more of a challenge. Latin America, extraordinarily positive, which we're really interested to see. And in fact, we're doing a survey right now with Tec de Monterrey, one of the leading universities in Latin America. They're based in Monterrey in Mexico. And we're doing a big survey of Latin American universities together with them at the moment. So hopefully we'll be able to glean more data. But of course, most of the audience for this webinar today are American. And we're still not sure what's going on here. But we've had some very interesting conversations as a result of this, and happy to get your views on that as well. And of course, faculty don't just worry about their uses in the classroom and for assessment, but they really do worry. And we know that this has been the subject of a range of articles over the last few months about students becoming overly reliant, and what is this doing to the overall cognitive abilities of students. And of course, we know that there's some way to go on that discussion. What do faculty want as far as resources, training and best practices? Well, they basically say we'd love for our institutions to provide us with some tools and some guidance on the use of them as well. So we don't just want guidance in terms of policies, we'd really like some training, please. And so this is, again, a standout with almost 2/3 of faculty saying both of these things. They also would very much like a collection of best practices. And for those of you who have an opportunity to follow the work that we do and get involved with the work that we do, this best practices, we're going to have something to announce in the next few months. So there's going to be some great work that's being done in that area. So now we know what's going on. What are we actually doing about it? So we looked at what universities around the world are doing, and we created a series of use cases around the way that policies are developing at institutions around the world. And we did this in 3 areas: AI use in teaching, AI use in research, and AI use in assignments. And I'm just going to very quickly blast you through what we found. So this is actually just an excerpt from our executive briefing that we did late last year. And we were looking at the AI use in teaching use cases. And we broke down the value chain of teaching. We start with content creation and said, what are the sorts of policies that are happening in universities around the world right now? So if we talk about content creation, you can see on the right-hand side of that slide some of the common approaches. And we also provided some guidance around best practices, what we see as best practices, in this case from University of Saskatchewan in Canada, one of the members of the Digital Education Council. And on the left-hand side, the donut shows us how mature we see the approaches being taken. Not how mature is the technology, but how mature is the approach being taken by universities. And we've done the same for learning support. We've done the same for use in classrooms, very, very early stages here. And grading and evaluation, I think it's fair to say everybody really doesn't like this one. How do we prepare for an AI-enabled future? Well, so much of this begins with governance for us. So We published a piece of work earlier last year, which was our AI governance framework. This is really how we set the foundations, or the concrete foundations on which we build things like our policies, like our training, guidance, our communication, and all of those sorts of things. And we broke down the way that you can build governance inside an institution into 4 areas: the way we use it, the role for people, our internal structures, and the way we communicate, which we see as a bit of a blind spot. And it sits upon a bunch of guiding principles that it should be about people: transparent, fair, accountable, and safe. And as we start to build on that, of course, we can take 2 approaches to looking at use cases inside our institutions. So in this case, this is a risk-based view of the world, everything from open use to prohibited use and everything else in between. We know there's a range of these around the world. This is ours, and we've given some examples here as well. But what we wanted to do, as well as look at the risk, is look at the potential impact, the potential positive impact on the student journey if we allow use, encourage use, or even mandate the use of AI in student studies. Now, we have a lot more that we have to say about this, and there's many resources that are available to DEC members as well. In doing this, we want to make sure that everybody understands that we can't just be speaking inside our walls as we build our governance processes, as we build accountability, as we build up our systems, as we look to purchase technology, as we look to deliver training, and make accountability processes and all of those sorts of things. Communication is really, really key to all of this, because we already see around the world that the role for higher education, the perception of the role of higher education, is already beginning to become frayed. So our social license is already under threat. We know that. It's certainly magnified in the United States, but it is starting to happen around the world. And if you ask the person in the street, what do you think about AI in higher education, they will say AI equals cheating. And if they think we use AI to cheat and our students use AI to cheat, then we begin to exacerbate that social license problem. So we see communication as really, really fundamental. So as we go through this journey inside our institutions, we'd really like to emphasize that it's important to keep everyone engaged with what it is that you're doing. So not just our traditional stakeholders, our instructors, our students, our researchers, and our staff, but you also need to actively engage with our legislators and our regulators. These are the people who are making the rules in which we operate. We also need to engage with industry and employers. They need to feel comfortable with what we're doing, and then it's relevant to the future of the world of work. Also, our prospective students and parents and our community more broadly. And certainly the activity being done by Campus Technology helps us with that. So how can we practically start to bring this into our institutions? Well, I think I have more conversations with universities and colleges around the world than most people alive. And everyone is at various stages of readiness in different parts of their institutions. So we wanted to create something that was really an opportunity to have honest conversations inside your institution in a way that's measurable and practical. And so this is actually the output of one of our working groups. So our working groups, as you'll remember, is an opportunity for our members to collaborate and share best practices. What's different about our working groups at the Digital Education Council is that we are laser focused on outcomes. This is the first piece of output that's come out of our working groups. It's available for free. You can download it from our website. And it was co-created by 27 of our university members from around the world. So this is very relevant and very, very global. And what we've done is we've created these 4 key principles on what it means to be ready to bring AI into higher education. Resilience, adaptability, because we don't know what the future looks like. Transformation, how sticky and how gummed up are our works? How able to change are we, and at what speed? And again, that issue of community, because we have now a much larger community with whom we need to engage. our members came up with these 10 dimensions of AI readiness. So this is a very structured and very practical way of looking at all of the different things that we do inside our institutions so we can think about them, talk about them, and make changes. So everything from how aligned are we to our strategy, to our institutional governance processes. I go back to our governance framework. How well do we engage with our stakeholders, not just talking to them, but listening to them as well? How operationally ready are we? What does our infrastructure look like? How do we build AI literacy and ethics capabilities into our staff, into our faculty, into our students? How accessible and inclusive is this? And when people talk about accessibility and inclusion, often they think about, well, disabled people and those sorts of things, marginalised communities. But I think about this very much as, how do we use technology? Businesses using technology and AI to give themselves superpowers, to magnify what they can do. What are we doing as an industry, as an institution, to magnify the work that we do by using some of these same tools? How can we touch people that we were unable to reach before with great high quality education? So you can see the logical way that this was sort of designed. We put it into a report. It's very easy to digest. And so each one of these dimensions receives its own set of pages. And we define what we mean in each of those levels: emerging, developing, established, and mature. We give a case study from one of our members. So these are real life case studies. Not all of them are good. Some of them, have some challenges, just like the rest of us. Reflective prompts, which I see as conversation starters. So how do we actually start to think about these things inside our institution? And very logical ways of moving from level 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. You can download that. That's available for free from our website. I also wanted to just talk about some of the work that we're doing around AI literacy. So we looked at over 30 different AI literacy frameworks around the world. And we wanted to really understand, with all of these frameworks that are out there, why is nobody using them? So we developed the Digital Education Council's AI literacy framework. And we did it across these 5 dimensions. And these are really the way that a human looks at anything new. So we want to understand what something is when we look at something new. And so we ask some basic questions. How does it work? How do we evaluate its output? How do we know what it does, right? How do we use it ethically? How do we keep humans at the center of this work? And that 5th dimension there that basically says, how is AI literacy different for different people? And so we've gone through these different competency levels. Again, you can download this for free from our website. It's your typical 3-level rubric. But we want to be very careful in articulating that as we go through this work, that not everybody needs to get to level 3 in order to operate. And I think this needs to be said explicitly. So we give lots and lots of examples, and we give some guidance as well as to, for different types of roles, in this case for teachers, for faculty, what sort of level do people need to achieve in order to be able to safely and effectively operate? Now, we've done this. There's obviously an enormous amount of detail in this, and we strongly recommend that you go through and download this as well. We've also done this for students and given lots of guidance on how you can safely and effectively bring AI literacy into the classroom. Now, before I go, I want to talk about assessment. Now, this is really often where some of the conversations that I have with universities start. We were very fortunate to collaborate with Pearson to develop this report on the next era of assessment. And you can download this again for free. And we wanted to just express how, because AI exists now, what's now possible and what must be adapted. Again, this is back to my comments about using AI detection tools. What must we adapt as institutions in reaction to the fact that AI exists? We've developed these 3 ways of looking at assessment, 3 ways of categorizing assessment to AI-free, AI-assisted, and AI-integrated. And as you go through the report, you'll see some very, very practical ways of looking in assessment. and new ways that you can very practically reform assessment throughout the life cycle of a course, not just to get a summative picture of somebody's knowledge or skills, but how can you also use AI or assessment as a form of learning as well. So we have this two-priority approach. You can go through this. This is about developing or understanding a person's competence in a particular area, but also their competence in a particular area together with AI, because this is the world in which they will begin to operate. We've helped categorize each of the different approaches, over 100 different approaches, into 14 categories so we can think about them, talk about them, and start making decisions inside our institutions in a logical way. For each of the 14 approaches, we've developed a set of methodology cards. Again, this is available for free. The methodologies include a description of each methodology, step-by-step instructions, and real-world case studies, and then different ways that we think each of these methodologies can be used to assess different learning outcomes and AI competencies as well. So all of the information that I provided in the last half hour has been sourced from our reports and executive briefings that we provide to our members. Quite a number of these are available for free download, but as we progress, there's obviously much more available to our members. We also were very fortunate to collaborate with a number of universities around the world, including University of California, Berkeley, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, Pompeu Fabra in Spain, UPC in Peru, Singapore Management University, to develop 2 courses in AI literacy. One is for university leadership, faculty, and administrators. There's 3 separate tracks, and one of them is also available for students. Both of these are designed to be deployed at scale. We're expecting hundreds of thousands of people to do our courses over the next year, and we're very fortunate to be deploying these together with many of our university members around the world. I wanted to say thank you very much to Rhea, to the team at Campus Technology and THE for inviting me to speak today. My contact details are there on the screen. I also would love it if you would add me to your LinkedIn, and we're publishing lots and lots of resources, again, for free online. But thank you very much.